I've got an interesting job because I have to echo what Matt started off talking about and start to think about how we all need to react to that in order to set up what's going to come afterwards. But just like Babs, I'm excited to be here. I'm a little more Wayne Sleep to his Pavarotti, but this is how it feels to be up here. I'm small, excited, loaded with lots of good stuff and hoping to be helpful. And that's the beauty of the digital world. I can pretend to be almost anybody I want to be and get distracted whilst I'm doing that. But it doesn't hide the reality, because whilst that might be how I feel up here, I suspect this is a little bit more like how I appear to you. Old, curmudgeonly, full of hot air, and probably beyond being useful. But somewhere between the digital possibility of the Boy Scout and the physical reality of an old guy, what you've actually got is an aging media planner hoping to find something useful to say about the evolution of marketing for a digital world and the paradigm shift that brands are making in the way that they set and plan their strategies. I think it's quite paradoxical having the word evolution and paradigm shift in the same sentence. So let me set my stall out right at the beginning. We are at a period, as Babs has just pointed out, a period of evolution, but it's adaptive evolution where we need to respond to changes in the environment. I fundamentally don't believe that there needs to be a shift in the paradigm of strategic marketing. We just need to change the way we operate within the paradigm that currently exists. And I also want to call time on the seduction of talking about new media and a digital world and try and reground you smart people back in the realities of good old-fashioned marketing, but make them appropriate for an enhanced digital world. So let me explain kind of what I mean by this. This is kind of like the basic structure for what it is that we go through as marketeers, and that hasn't changed. But the way that we operate within it and the opportunities that Matt pointed to this morning and that Babs has just highlighted, the opportunities to do it in different ways are being completely retooled and revitalized by what's possible with digital. And what we're going through is kind of like this. So here's a buffet for the biggest brains of boffins that the science world has ever seen, and you get a prize if you can name all of them without referring to Google, okay? But essentially, we're going through the same sort of evolution that scientific theory has gone through. As new tools and techniques come into play, people are better able to explore and examine the world around them. Thing is, they're asking the same questions that they were asking in the 1800s. They're just finding better answers. They give them a better understanding of what is possible. And maybe Newton, who, if you can pick him out, I think is the lady in the dress, in the maxi dress that was sold by Google in the 1700s. Newton said it best when he said, "If I've seen further than others, it's because I've stood on the shoulders of giants." Now, if I stood on the shoulder of giants, I expect I'd be about the same height as most of the rest of you in here. But I'd be able to say exactly the same things that you can, which is the paradigm of marketing, the basic conceptual framework within which marketing gets done. That hasn't changed at all. What digital has changed is the tools that we've got at our disposal to do it. It's considerably changed the distance and the power balance between corporations and consumers, and it's also opened up huge opportunities for us to build massive scaled connections at breathtaking speed, and you'll see that later on when we talk about Old Spice. Now, I'm not telling you anything that you don't know already, but my contention is that actually you knowing this has made us all lazy about the fundamentals of marketing. And I think we've all been seduced by these digital possibilities to the extent that we're kind of getting more excited about what we can do and these possibilities at the expense of making sure that we can still turn these back into profits. And I think we need to take a step back and rewire and re-engineer the very way that we as a business, as an industry, connect with each other. And that's what I want to talk about. It's the same theme that Matt was talking about. Bluntly, this is about getting back to prizing and valuing brilliant ideas that could be built into stories about our brands that drive our business. Not about clamoring for the latest imaginative execution in the digital world or being tempted by a new tactic or technique that's driven by digital developments. So let me explain what I mean. This is what I was told 25 years ago when I looked like the original Mario, 200 pixels tall, but with a really good mustache in the 1980s. Marketing is about connecting our businesses to the desires and the needs of consumers. Simple as that, and that's still what we have to do. The thing is that our ability to scale, build, farm, and nurture those connections has been absolutely, there's a phase change, a quantum change, a degree of absolute magnitude change in the way that we can do it, captured brilliantly by this quote about Amazon that likens the old world business of the local butcher to the new world business of Amazon. The thing that's interesting about that is that was written by a Wall Street analyst in 2004. Dead right, the ability to carry out conversations at a personal level, one-on-one, which is what marketing, when it first started off, was all about. Now, the truth is, to do that brilliantly, you still have to find that big idea, and you have to find the best creative way of connecting our business to our consumer. The thing that's changed, I think, though, is we as an industry have started to separate the how we connect with the what we say to connect. And Naked's 10 years old this year, and I think in this market, it's played a big part in getting people to change the way they value the creativity around the how. But we're in danger in this digital world of doing that at the expense of thinking about the what. So we're going to echo what Matt said about brilliant ideas, about what Bab said about brilliant ideas. Where we go off and find them, I think, is the trick. So how do you find brilliant ideas and how do you make it work? Because I think the job that we've all got to do and what we've got to think about is how that what and that how are symbiotic. We need to pull them back together, so much so that I've been thinking about mixing the words up, what and how, and coming up with a new term. The best I could get to was hath wow or ho twat. Now, I don't know either of those will catch on, but the point is the same. If we're to realize the power of this symbiosis of the what and the how working together, who do you turn to get that done? Well, I think the old-fashioned hierarchy and value chain of developing communications ideas is starting to break down. I don't want you to read anything into the cartoons I'm using. It's mere coincidence that clients are witty, urbane panthers, that digital specialists are errant geniuses, and communications consultants like me are all Mickey Mouse. That's just pure coincidence. The truth is that model has broken down, and this is what I mean about rewiring the connections inside our business, because it's much more amorphous now, and it's much more democratic. We still need to find good ideas, but the way clients need to look about finding them can completely change. It's just as valid to be looking at a media owner, and again, with respect to Google, it's mere coincidence. I represent you as a media owner as that well-loved Disney character. But it's just as valid for a client to look to a media owner as it is to look to a specialist in this area. And in fact, you know, the idea that when Matt asked you how many of you had digital in your title and hardly any of you put your hands up, I think that's a great sign, because you don't have to work with somebody that says they're digital, because the point is everything and everyone will be digital or will be out of the business in the future. The point is we need to find a better way of working together, and whichever way you look, you're looking for the same thing Matt talked about. Brilliant ideas. Digital's not changing the nature of those ideas, but it is changing their potential to spread. Digital's not a noun, it's not a channel, it's not a medium like Matt said, it's not a specialism. It's a collection of characteristics and capabilities that all conveniently begin with the letter A. It's addressable, it's affordable, it's avoidable, it's adoptable, it's adaptable, it's accessible, it's actionable. And because I couldn't think of an eighth one for Eric Morecambe, it's also Arsenal in that it's brilliant to watch, it's enigmatic, it's run by the French, and yet it's completely in need of delivering permanent, sustainable, and frequent results. And I think that's the challenge. We can all pull one or two great things out about Tipex or about Old Spice, but to all do it consistently and build it into everything that we do is the challenge that lays ahead of us. Just to give you an example, when you get them all to work together, because they can work together, but they work together at a cost. And I think the cost is often hidden. Old history, and everybody's probably seen it, but think about Barack Obama and the Facebook campaign. What he did was the principles, the fundamentals of being a politician, connect with individuals at a personal level. But he used the digital world to do that at the scale of tens of millions of people, one at a time. And look at the numbers there. He spent less than just over 1% of his money, his capital that he raised, on digital media. But insiders tell me, I've heard the figure put as high as 35% of his resources, manpower, and his time was spent in the digital world. So there's a hidden cost there to what it was he was doing, and boy, it had better yield results. The most impressive thing I think they did was the email that they sent between him winning the election and knowing he'd won it, and getting on the platform in Chicago to do his victory speech. They sent out 70 million personalized emails to the people that had supported him, 3 of which I happen to know are hanging on the walls of friends of mine in America, all of which, just by coincidence, happen to be in the lavatory, so I don't know what that says. But that personalized sort of like instantaneous ability to connect with people at huge scale is another shift that I think we need to make. So we're all used to talking about consumer-centric marketing, putting the consumer at the heart of what it is that we do. And that's right, we still have to keep doing that. But digital is opening up the opportunity to go back to that Amazon quote, to address the personal needs and desires of millions of people one at a time. So think of the Tipex thing, you know, it's a way of responding to what it is that I'm interested in seeing a hunter do with a bear. Personalize it, make it personal one at a time. And as they've already alluded to, that's going to get even more prevalent when these things come along and when they get sort of real grasp on the world. So don't think of them as phones, think of them as we all do now, as personal addressable screens. They're constantly on the move. And if you close your eyes and start humming Right Here, Right Now by Fatboy Slim, you'll start to see a whole new set of characteristics beginning with a different letter begin to emerge. Now, if I was Derren Brown, I'd get you to tell me what letter that was. Anybody want a shot? Proving I'm more chubby brown than Derren Brown. So it's the letter P. This is what happens, and this is coming. This is what's coming down the pipe for all of us in marketing. And the thing that's really interesting is we're going to be able to have better tools to do the same thing, fill personal spaces with the right message at the right time, in the right place, and do it time after time. So when you look at the trending tweets on Twitter, or you look at the search trends on Google, we can do real-time reactions, location-specific, personalized, but here's the trick. Scale them up to the millions in a way that we've never been able to do before. And people will get used to this. People will get used to this and get used to the way we do it well to such an extent that then I think we will get a paradigm shift in marketing based on data, devices, and dumber consumers. Because there's a lot of evidence beginning to emerge that our reliance upon these devices is not only changing the way our brains work, it's also changing the amount of work that our brains do. So read this book by Nicholas Carr, or talk to an old school taxi driver about GPS in London, and you'll see what I mean. Now, the thing that's interesting is you should all be worried about this, because if these trends continue, 70% of the jobs that those of us in here do today will not be here by 2020. They'll be done by computers, and we'll all be working in Starbucks. So let me summarize by the use of a gratuitous print ad designed to make all of us here feel inadequate. I think, essentially, that we've got to get back to the fundamental basics of marketing. We've got to stop being seduced by this talk of new paradigms for a digital world, work within the old paradigm, but change the way that we work and change the way we work together. I think we've also got to still pursue brilliant, big ideas, and you're going to see one of those in Old Spice. And I also think that we've got to stop thinking that anybody is a digital specialist. If you can't do digital, like Matt says, if you can't do that, then you're out of the game. Now, they also asked me to sort of talk about examples of people doing it well. And I think those examples are few and far between. As I said, it's easy to find one or two. It's not easy to prove that we as a community are doing digital everywhere, all the time, and doing it really well. But you are going to see one, Old Spice, in a minute. Now, for every Old Spice campaign that comes along, there are hundreds of other campaigns that want to be the campaign that Old Spice is, but they can't. The best they can do is smell just a little bit like it. And that's going to keep continuing as long as we keep thinking that digital is like a limb that's appended to our communications body, rather than think of it as the blood that needs to flow through everything. And that's what the rest of the day is going to be about. Thank you.